Thank you so much for joining me today. In this tutorial, we are going to cover developing the basic pattern blocks using Inkscape. Inkscape is a free vector-based software. The wonderful thing about it is it does have a lot of the capability that the other softwares do. It is limited in some aspects, but you can create your basic shapes and you can edit and you can start your designs. Now, if you find you're really enjoying this and you want to develop it into a business, and I really encourage you to look at Illustrator or even more advanced packages than Inkscape itself. Like I said, Inkscape is a free software, so therefore the support on it is incredibly limited. I encourage you to join the communities. If you go on over to their website, inkscape.org, join the community, get involved, and you'll be able to find out more about what this software is capable of. Of course, you've also got the help menus and the manuals as well, but the actual support from the company itself is very limited. So first of all, go and download it. Like I said, it's inkscape.org, either for Windows or Mac. They don't currently support tablets, but there are other versions of software that do. Go and download your version, and then you're also going to need your customer measurements record. Now, if you haven't downloaded it, it is on the Facebook group, which is facebook.com/groups/sewing worldwide. You'll find it in the files section. If for any reason you can't access it, as I know some of you do seem to be having troubles getting onto the files, I'm also going to re-record this in a couple of days and get it set up to the website, and I'm going to do it as a short course. So it's going to be chopped down into small bite-sized portions to make it easier for you to consume, and the customer measurements record will be available in the course resources along with a load of other bits and bobs that you'll probably find helpful. Again, it's completely free. I'm not going to charge for it. This is really a great starting point for anybody that is interested in starting developing their own patterns, or like I said, if you're interested in starting it as a business. It's a great business opportunity, because once you've developed those patterns, they can continue to sell for years and years and years, and you don't need to touch them. So it really is a good starting point for earning some extra money. So let's have a look at the basics that we're going to need to go through. So first of all, this is what you will see on your screen when you first open Inkscape. It can be a little bit daunting if you've never used a graphics package before, so don't panic. We're not going to use everything that's here. Like I said, if you decide that this is your software, this is the one you love, you can look into it more, you can develop with it, you'll find workarounds, and it's just however you want to grow with it. But for now, let's go File, Document Properties, and the property box pops up out here. I don't know why, it just does. Great, drag it in, have a look at the general settings. Here they've got them in millimeters. I'm going to be working in centimeters, so change that. Again, you can, if you're inches, use inches. I sometimes swap between the two, but we're going to be using centimeters today. So change the page size, because this is our working area. You see, in other software, it's called the artboard or the canvas. So here is your page size. We want to make it A0. Click that and it turns to A0. Wonderful thing about A0 is that if you then want to send your patterns off for large format printing, it's ready to rock and roll. It's the right size. And it's also a really good size canvas to start working with. And then just change the custom size down here. And great, then just click the cross and get it out of the way. Now, the next thing I want you to do is hold down the space bar and just move your mouse around. And this is your pan. Okay, so it's really good if you want to see things on the canvas that you can't see elsewhere. So hold down the space bar and move your mouse. You don't need to click, it will just do it, and then let go. Now, if you press the Z button, this gives you your zoom. So if you click the left mouse button, you zoom in, and the right mouse button, you zoom out. You can also use the scroll wheel to scroll up and down. This is on the mouse. If you've got a drag pad on your laptop, or you're using a pen or anything else, it's going to be a bit different. So you just have to work with what you can. And then these are the main functions that we're going to be using, along with some of the bits down the bottom here. But most of it we're not going to worry too much about, okay? Because remember, you're not designing a work of art, you're designing something that is essentially some lines. That's all a pattern is. It's a lot of lines, okay? Next thing we need to think about are these rulers up here. So these are very helpful for what we want to use. This is your 0 line. See where the 0 is? 0. And then there's another one down here, 0. And that goes across there, which means this bottom corner is your 0 point. Now, because this doesn't have the ability for you to be able to just draw something and just plonk it somewhere and then tell it where that you want to just shift it over with just a quick box, we need to think about where everything is in relation to that 0. It does sound complicated, but don't worry. It really does get simple when you start to work it out. If you could draw your images wherever you wanted to, but then the computer won't understand. So if you drew it, say under this, zoom in a little bit. There, if we put a box here, so under 40, and you wanted to move the box over another 20 centimeters. Remember, when you're drawing, you can tell the computer, you just pick it up and move it around wherever you want. But here we need to be working in the actual units because we need it to be fairly precise, otherwise nothing's going to fit. So if you put a box under 40 and you wanted to move it across 20 centimetres, if you just put in 20, it'll go back to 20. It's going to take this 0 line as its reference. So we will have to add 20 to move it across to 60. But I'll show you more about that in a minute with the X and Y. But remember that this is your 0 point. This is your starting point down here. So hopefully you've filled in your measurements. I'm actually just using some standard measurements that I've got. You can use yours, customers, or standard measurements, whatever you find easier to use. And then I'm also going to be using my notepad, purely so you can see what I'm doing. It's handy if you've got a pen and paper just to write down your things. And I also have my calculator. I'm not that good with maths in my head. I do need my calculator. So just excuse me while I use that all the way through. Really am sorry about that. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to be making our basic block. Okay, so we're going to be doing dress block today, or starting with the dress block. We'll see how we go. If we run out, if we're getting up to the hour point, I'm going to stop it there. Okay, I'm not going to cover the other blocks, otherwise this is just going to be going on too long. So we'll just try and do the basic dress block today, and then if I get time, I'll add the other bits on later. In fact, actually, what I might do is put the other bits in the short course, so you can all go over to the short course and see how you can develop the other parts of the block. So like the sleeve, and develop a separate skirt, a separate top, and separate trousers, all from one starting point. So yeah, we'll probably just cover the dress block today. And I said I'll put the rest of it up in the short course later. So we're going to go to, we need to figure out what measurements we need first. So let's take our notepad now. The first measurement we need is the half back bust measurement, right? Plus 10 centimetres. Now on the measurements chart, I asked you to take the total bust, and then underneath that we put the front bust and the back bust. Now the total bust was obviously all the way around, and then all I've done is divided it by 2 to get the front and the back bust. If your customer or yourself is fuller busted, you might have a larger number at the front and a smaller number at the back. That's fine, use whatever you have, but for this example I've divided it by 2. So I'm going to take that measurement. So my measurement was 46. Oh, keep that up there. So 46 divided by 2 gives us the half back measurement, which was 23 plus 10. And that's 33 centimetres. Now, don't panic about that number, okay? That number 10, I've got images of those of you that have done a bit of pattern work before going, crikey, that's an awful lot of extra to add. We're not actually developing the pattern yet. This is literally just the paper. This is going to be your starting point. So don't worry about that number. Just go with it. If for any reason that number is narrower than the biggest hip measurement you've got, then use the biggest hip measurement. But for this example, I will be using this number. Okay, so the next one we want to think about is the total length of the block. So we want the shoulder to waist, but the back measurement, because we're doing the back of the block first. And then we're going to add 4 centimetres to that. Okay, so mine was 41. So just get rid of that. 41 plus 4. Oh, so I could have done that in my head. It's 45. So that's 45 centimetres. And then you also want, we're going to use the waist to knee length. If you're doing a longer one, then you can use whatever length you want. If you want to do it midi, use that. If you want to do ankle length, use that. But we're going to be using waist to knee. So the waist to knee length was, in this case, it was 55 centimetres. So we're going to go here, add 55. So our total length for the whole piece is 100 centimetres. That's great. Now, it's exactly the same to do the front. And again, we'll go back to that when we get there. But you will find it will be longer because obviously when we took the measurement for the front, when you took the shoulder over the bust obviously will protrude more and therefore it will make the pattern piece longer at the front. And that's how you end up with your dart. But for now, we'll just take these measurements and we go back over here. Now we're going to use the rectangle tool. And this is great. I'll just show you. You grab your rectangle tool, click your mouse button down and hold it and then drag. And it gives you a rectangle or a square. And up here, you get to be able to change the dimensions. Like I said, in other software, such as Illustrator, all you do is you just click the square button and then you can put your measurements in before you create the square. We have to do it backwards here, okay? So we know that we wanted the width to be, what did we say? The width was 33. So we want the width of our pattern to be 33 and we want the height to be 100. So that has changed that to be the exact dimensions that we want. So that's great. And then we just drag it up here. Now remember what I said about starting in the corner. We need to tell this block that we want him to be down here. You can drag it and just put in there, but it doesn't snap exactly into place. So what we're going to do is go to X and Y. Remember X and Y are the lines, or the sides of the paper. And we're just going to 0 and 0. And that pops him in the bottom there. So that is our working area for our back piece. And now we need to start dividing this up into the levels. So you'll have things like your bust level, your underarm level, your waistline, your hip line, and such like that. So it gives you the guidelines to be able to start doing your pattern work. So we're going to go over, grab the pen tool. This is our pen. Okay, so basically you get that little pen with a little cross, which is really cute. So click. And that gives you a node. This dot is a node, which you'll be able to edit later using this tool, which is the Edit Nodes tool. Now, this little red line that's holding on to it is nothing. Don't worry about it. It's just sort of there as a guide. But you haven't actually created a line yet. You've just put a node down. And then if you go across and click again, that's the start of your line. You see, and then we've got this little red line again. And then we can click somewhere else, click somewhere else, click somewhere else. But you haven't yet finished the line or the shape that you're making. If you just press escape, it will just disappear. So it wasn't a finished object. If you go click and then click again, then hit the enter button, that creates you a shape. Okay, so the fact that it's done that means you finished it and it's a shape. Now, if we go to the select tool up here, it highlights it. And then we can press delete and it will go away. So go back to the pen tool, click, and then holding down the control button, I think it's command in Mac, you can restrain it to the angles. And this is really handy when we want, 90-degree angles. So control, holding down control, do your line across, click, and then press enter. And we've got a straight line. Now we'll go back to the black arrow selection tool. Now the height here is just telling us how high this line is. You don't need to worry about that. But what we are going to look at is the width. We want this width to be the same as this one. And we know that was 33. So you just go 33, hit enter, and that's given you that. So then if we zoom in a little, you can see. Right, now back on the black arrow tool, you come over, you see that I'm hovering, I've got the crosshairs. That means you could just pick him up and drag him. So hold the mouse button down there, and or the left mouse button held down, and the crosshairs have gone white. Drag it down, and then, as if by magic, there you go. He knew that those little cross there was, oh, I've got to go there. I want to snap to that point. If you're interested in the settings for the snaps, you can have all sorts of settings in here for snapping. A lot of it's over here, some of it's in the menus. If that's something that you would like to find out more about, check out the help menu and have a look and see how you get on. Right, so I'm going to zoom out a little bit. There we go. Now we need to start dividing up the page. So the first thing we're going to do is we want to measure where the waistline is going to be. So back on so now we need to tell this line where the waist measurement is, and we recorded that here. So the shoulder to waist back plus 4 was 45. So what you can do, grab him, and he needs to go down 45. But remember what I said about the X and the Y and moving it in relation to it. So here, this is 100. So from the 0 here, he's currently sitting up 100. So we want him to go down. So we think down is minus. So we want to take our 100 minus 45 gives us 55. So we're going to say it's 55 in the Y. And that moves him down to the waistline. So that is our waistline, okay? And you can, of course, annotate if you want to. So you can zoom in, go to the text, with the little A key here, click on him, change whatever you want up here. This is just obviously normal text formatting. So waistline, and select him and just pop him on there. In fact, yeah, no, I'll actually move him to the side just to make it a bit easier for us later on. So waistline, okay, and then we're just going to zoom out again. So the next movement is going to be down to the high hip level. So actually now we don't want to have to draw this again. We've already got him. We just need to copy him. Now you can go to the edit menu and use the copy and paste here, or you can use the keyboard shortcuts, which are obviously listed here. I'm going to be using keyboard shortcuts. You can paste in place, which actually is really helpful. When you paste in place, you're copying, and then you're going to paste directly on top of the object that's underneath. Really helpful for this, but I'm not going to use it because you won't be able to see what I'm doing. So we're going to select it, and I'm going to go Control C, and then I'm going to go Control V, and he pops another one up. And then let's grab him and drag him. There we go, and he clips in place. He snaps to the node. And now we want to move that down to the high hip line. So we took the high hip measurement at 12.5 centimetres down. So we need to move him down 12.5 centimetres. So he's currently sitting at the Y measurement of 55. So 55 minus 12.5, because we're going down, so it's a minus, is 42.5. You can probably understand now why some of the other software where you don't have to do this, it's much easier. So 42.5, moving down. So great, so that's the high hip line. So high hip line. And then stick him there. And then the next one down was the normal hip line. If you did use the full hip, which was completely optional, obviously just do exactly the same and put him in. We're not going to use that now, but you can. If you've used that as one of your biggest measurements, then you can put them in a bit further down. Just check where you measured him from on the instructions that I provided with the customer measurement chart. So we've already copied this, but if you wanted to do it again, so it's just Control-C, Control-V, but it actually should already be in the memory. So I don't need to tell it to copy again. I could just paste it, and we've got another one. And then we're going to pop him, just drag him, and there you go, those clicks in place. And we're just going to move him down another 5 centimeters. So bring up my calculator again, just you could do it without a calculator, but minus 5, 37.5. So we're going to move him to 37.5. Oh, 47. 37.5. And that is your normal hip line. Great, so that's the bottom part of the dress ready to start doing things with. And then we'll do the top. So if you still have that line in your memory, if you haven't copied anything else, you can just Control-V and put that one back in again. Or you can, like I said, select it, Control-C, Control-V. Now we want to take this up the top because we're going to do the top part. And snap him in. And then we want to decide where we're going to put the underarm line. Now the underarm line, if I zoom out a little bit, that will help, is actually going to be halfway. So we know that this measurement, we recorded the shoulder to waist back plus 4. So it's half of that measurement. So 45 divided by 2, 22.5. So we're going to take him, and he's 22.5 down. So remember, we know that this position is 100. So 100 minus 22.5 equals 77.5. So we need to move him down 77.5. And this is now your underarm line. So just note that. So underarm. So that's great. We'll zoom out again. And the next one is the across back line. And that is, again, half of this measurement. So it's 45 divided by 2, give us our underarm level. And then divide that by 2 again, it gives us our across back level. So that's 11.25. So Control-V, picks another one there, and then we just pop him. So 100 minus 11.25 equals 88.75. So where your Y is, 88.75. And that is your across back line. And then the only thing that's left now is to put in the bust line. Now, this is where it's going to match up with the piece on the front. So in between the underarm and the bust line, there will be a difference, a greater difference in the front of the pattern because of the dart. Okay, but for now, it's just going to be 5 centimeters down from here. So Control-V, drag him in, and then just move him down. So we know that we need to be 5 centimeters down from there. So back to my calculator. Like I said, again, if we were using Illustrator for this, we could just use the move function and just put in 5 centimeters and go down, and that would have just done that. But unfortunately, we don't have that capability, so we have to tell it what we're doing. So minus 5 equals 72.5. 72.5. That's our bust line. So I'll just zoom out. That's it. So that's now our basic block ready to start doing some stuff with. This is the back. Okay, it's exactly the same principle for the front, and we will do that, but you just have to remember about where the front front bust dart is going to be. Okay, and that will make a difference. So we'll just cover this one for now. So the next thing we're going to talk about quickly is layers. Now, layers are really useful in this because you can do something underneath and then not have it appear in the final image. I want you, if you've never worked with layers before, think of it as you're drawing on a piece of paper and then you put a piece of tracing paper over the top to do something different. So you have the one underneath is your basic one, and then your one on top has your extra bits on, and then you can delete them out or you can remove them. So it's layers and layers of tracing paper. So when you add a layer, you can't see it, but you are working on it. And that it hasn't got the most user-friendly layers palette, I have to say. Again, there are better versions of it out there, but it is handy to be able to use layers. So we're going to go to the layers menu and we're going to go add layer. Now, if you decide to use Inkscape as your main pattern software, being able to rename the layers is really handy because you can change it for grading. So you could have like size 8, size 10, size 12, and so on, and then you can hide them or view them as you need to. So we're not going to rename this. Now we're just going to go add. And then you come down the bottom here and it shows you your layers. If I click on this down arrow, I actually do have a list down the bottom here. You can't see it, unfortunately, it's popped off the screen, but it does give me an option to click layer 1 or layer 2. If I have more layers in it, the menu will come up here, but because I've only got 2, it's gone down and you now can't see it. So, but you could also lock the layer, which we're going to do in a minute for layer 1, and you can also hide the layer if you don't want to see it, and I'll show you that later. So for now, select layer 1 and then lock him, which means that now that little padlock's there, and we go back to the select thing, we can do this. I can't do anything. So that's great. So that just means that we can't edit or move those lines. Those lines aren't going to go anywhere. So now we're going to be working on layer 2. Then we're going to zoom in a little. So we're going to go up here, and the next thing we're going to do, first thing we're going to think about is the neck. So grab your notepad again. I do actually have a cheat sheet for neck measurements, just to make things easy for you. And again, that's something I will upload in the short course version of this, so you've got a cheat sheet, so you haven't got to worry about working this one out. But you're going to take your neck circumference measurement. Excuse my spelling on this, I know I'm not very good at spelling. Which we made 36.8 centimetres. So you need to take that measurement and divide it by 5. And then you want to take away 0.2 centimetres. So that's my calculator. So 36.8 divided by 5 minus 0.2 gives us 7.16. So 7.16. And again, use the cheat sheet if you want to on the short course version of this, because it does make things a lot easier. So 7.6. Now we know that the across here now, so that's going to be the neck width here, 7.6, and actually you just want to come down 1.5 centimetres. So actually what we'll do is we'll turn that into a block. So remember, click and drag. And we know that we wanted to go across 1.5, also down 1.5, and you wanted the width to be 7.16. So 7.16. And then you're going to grab this and just pop them in there. If you want, you could do that on the on layer 1 if you wanted to. And now I'm just going to show you. Go grab the pen tool, and this is where we can do curves in here. We're not going to finish it at the minute, but I'll just show you, for example, click there, click on that one, then if you pull, you create the handles there that give you a curve, and that, when we finish this, will be your neck curve. All right, so we'll just get rid of that for now. So this is where we're going to put our neck. You can do it with lines or dots if you find it easier, but because Inkscape's limited, we're just going to do a block there. Now we're also going to take another copy of this line here. So we wanted, can actually now just draw directly on top instead of going copy and paste, obviously, because it's now you can't copy it on layer 1 now because we've locked layer 1. So click that and then enter. And then we're just going to take him up here, stick him on the top, and we want to just drop him down 4.5 centimetres. So back to the calculator. We know he's 100 centimetres high, so 100 minus 4.5. So we're going to move him down 95.5. 95.5. There we go. And this is actually your shoulder level. Okay, so let's take our pen tool again. And then we're just going to draw just a little straight line. It can be anywhere, it doesn't matter, but let's just say, let's put him here and here. Doesn't matter on the length on this one. This is a guideline. And we're going to put him there. Now, if you wanted to, you could actually change the colour here to make it easier to see and make it wider. And you could just do that by coming down here in this section, and your stroke and fill options will come up here. And this means you can change the width of them. So we'll just change the width. So if I put that up to 3, and then we could change the colours and such like that. Okay, and that's the colours. So so he's now red. Yeah, but you don't have to. If you want to change the colour to make it easier to see, then that's how you do it. You just come down here and select these options here. It brings you up an options palette, and just change the colour and the width, and just click out of that. Now we want to go across here. This is, like I said, this is our across shoulder line. So this will be where our neckline is. And then our shoulder line will come down and touch on here. So what we want to do is we want to know how far across here the shoulder is. So let's just go back to our measurements. Now on the measurement chart, you should have recorded the across shoulder, well, the shoulder width, the full shoulder width, sorry, not the across back width, the shoulder width. So shoulder width. And the shoulder width we recorded was 39.1. Now you want to divide that by 2. And then you want to add a bit of extra movement in there. So we're going to add 1.5 centimetres to that. So let's do 39.1 divided by 2 plus 1.5 gives us 20.05. So we can move this across to over here to 20.05. So remember the X and the Y? Because we're starting on 0, we don't have to worry about adding and minusing like we have to do with going up and down. Because we're starting across here, it's great. We just literally put that figure that we just calculated, 20.01, into that box. So, sorry, what did I say? 21 even. 21.05, I'll get it right. Okay, 21.05 into the X box up here. There we go, look. And that gives us, that's the shoulder width guideline. And then the next one down, so we can copy that again because we're going to use another guideline. So Control C, Control V gives us that one. Let's just pop him here. Okay, this line we know was the across back line. So what we want is to go back to our measurements, and we want the across back width. So half of the across back width. So half. Add 1.5 centimetres to that. So our back width was 37.8. We're going to divide that by 2 and add 1.5. So 37.8 divided by 2 plus 1.5 gives us 20.4. So this is 20.4. Oh, sorry, no, not that one. I'll escape that. It's the X, sorry, not the Y. 20.4. Now, I don't know if you can understand what's happened here. So we're going to have the curve down to the line on the shoulder, and then that's going to curve in again. And then in a minute, we're going to make an underarm here. So now let's come down to the back bust. So go back to the measurements. And we want, so it's not quite, remember that? It's a huge number up here, so that's too big for what we want. So we wanted the half of the back bust. And actually we're just going to add 2.5 centimetres to that. This is now where we're starting to talk about pattern ease, okay? This will give us 10 centimetres overall on the bust ease when we add the same to the front. Okay, if this is too much bust ease for you and you understand the principles of ease, you can take it down. I mean, you can go down as low as you want, but this gives a fairly, it's a good number to start with, 10 centimetres. Again, if you want to go tighter during evening wear, just use less. But you can also develop the pattern later and take it out manually. So it's a nice place to start with 10 centimetres. So let's go to the back bust was 46 centimetres divided by 2 plus 2.5. Back to the calculator. So 46 divided by 2 plus 2.5. 25.5. So again, we're going to copy this one. And we're going to line him up. So now we're doing the underarm. I'm going to put it on there. And then we're going to, we just zero him off there. He's moved over slightly. Okay. And then we said there you go, 25.5. I'd actually lost my calculator there for a moment. 25.5 on the X. Press enter. And that's giving you, you're starting to see a shape there. Can you see? It'll be easy when we draw it in, you'll understand. Ignore this line for now, you don't need to worry about it. Let's come down to the waistline. So the waistline, it's back to our measurements. And we need to know 1/4 of the waist plus 5 centimetres. Now, don't worry about this 5 centimetre measurement at the moment. Again, we're sort of talking ease here, but it will be taken out in darts later on. So the waist is 74 divided by 4 plus 5. So back to my calculator. 74 divided by 4 plus 5. So that's 23.5. So go and grab us another one of these. So copy them, Control C, Control V, and then pop them on there. And you can zero them off if you want to. And then 23.5 on the X. That's your waistline. Now let's go down to the high hip line. Exactly the same. Just Control C, Control V. There we go. Just getting ready to use. Pop in there. Back to your measurements. And we're doing the so the high hip. So very similar to what we just did above. So 1/4 of the high hip plus 2.5. Back to the calculator. So the high hip measurement I was using was 90. So 90 divided by 4 plus 2.5 is 25. So we can move this one across 25. And then copy them, Control C, Control V, pop on there, and then we're going to do the last one's the normal hip line. Again, back to your measurements. So 1/4 of the normal hip, and again plus 2.5. Now remember, this is going to give you a good amount of ease all over, okay? So remember, if it's too much, you can take it out. So the normal hip was 98. And we're going to do divided by 4 because it's 1/4 plus 2.5 equals 27. We're going to move them across 27 in the X box. And that is now, believe it or not, all our markers that we need to do the back. So let's zoom out so you can have a look. Don't know if you can start to see sort of the shape that's coming in there. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to make another layer. So go to layer, add layer, and we're just going to work on layer 3. You can, if you really want to do this all in the same layer, it doesn't matter, but I like to use layers. So add, go back to layer 2 for a second, and we're just going to lock layer 2. So we can't edit anything on layer 2 now. Let's go to layer 3. And now we can start drawing in our pattern. And remember, this is when we get to use curves and things. This is great fun. So go to your pen tool. Then I'm going to click it. It likes to tell you that it's there. So you get to snap one node, then click for the next. Remember, click and drag here because it's a curve. So click and drag until you get a neck curve you're happy with. I quite like that one. Then click down here. Right, notice here that there's a curve that's happened here. I'll deal with that in a minute, so don't worry. Here, click, and actually only a little drag. You're not making too much of a curve there. Your biggest curve is going to be down here. So click on that one, and then sort of level him off. If you do him quite straight, if you hold the control button down, that gives you a, again, like it did on the line, it sort of tells you it's got to be exact. So that's there, and there. Again, look, that thing's happening, the curve. Don't worry about that. We're going to edit that in a minute. Click to there. So we're now onto the waistline. And then I'm actually going to ignore this one. Because it's, if he was a bit further over, I would have gone straight through him. But because our measurement that was taken has shown us that this top hip is quite narrow, we're going to worry about the fuller hip. So if you were using the really full hip and it was out here, you'd use that as your guide. Okay, so don't worry too much about that. You can go through it if you want, but if we went through that one and then through that one, it would give us a bit of a jagged edge. So we're just going to skip that one for now and then drag and create the curve there, like that. And then holding the control button down, you want to go directly down, so it's going to snap it straight down to the hem. And then again, holding the control button down, snap it straight. And all the way up here, and then close it. And that is that's finished. But like I said, here is quite an important note. Okay, depending on wherever your largest measurement was, that'll be where you want to create your curve from. Okay, and this one's obviously, it's coming quite narrow, so we've skipped it. Now, because we've got these weird funky curve things going on, we want to go and edit them. So this is when we grab our edit paths by node tool or node edit tool. And you see I clicked it and then it highlighted all the nodes for me. So I'm going to click on that node and it's given us the handles. Now I just want to drag the handle in and then grab that one. In fact, let's create a curve. Drag that one in. Now, did you see what I did there? I created, using these up here, you can turn them into points or corners. And I wanted to see those handles. Same thing's going to happen here in a minute. So we'll click on that one. But you see, while I'm moving this, a lot of the time it'll move the other one as well. So you've got to be careful. See, he's having troubles. He's having troubles. So let's do that one and then put that one back. Again, some of the other software that you can get does this much more efficiently. But essentially that's what you want to do. You grab those handles and you wiggle them around until you get the shape that you like. And then, so when the handle is out, it creates a curve. When the handles are in, it creates an angle or a straight line. And then also, don't worry, if you can see, I don't know if you're actually going to see this on when you view the video, but my computer has decided it's going to be a little bit slow and it's started to make the lines disappear a little bit. It's nothing wrong with your design, it is just the processor speed having a moment. Okay, so let's go back to that and let's zoom out. So now you have your back pattern piece. So great, well done, brilliant. So now what you can do is let's go to layer 1 and hide him. You see, that's the start. Now if we go to layer 2 and hide that, looking good, looking good. So great, let's show those layers again. And let's unlock them all. Now all you'll do is I'm going to grab the whole thing and I'm just going to move him out the way. Just make sure when you grab it all together, otherwise you'll leave bits behind. Okay, so that's our back pattern piece. So great, that's done. We now need to move on to the front. What will happen here later on is that we will put in waist darts and then you can go on to develop skirt blocks and other things from this as well. So moving on to the front one, I'm actually going to zoom through this a little bit faster than I did the back one. Hopefully you've kind of got the idea a bit of what we're doing now. So let's go and create that first rectangle like we did on, go back to layer 1 by the way. Create that first rectangle like we did here. So click and drag. And then we want to sort out the height and the width again. So we go back to our measurements that we had here earlier on. Now, you remember we had half the back bust plus 10. It's now half of the front bust plus 10, and actually it's exactly the same measurement for me because I divided the whole thing by 2. So, but double check with yours what it might be. Okay, so my width is going to be 33. And the height, this is where it's going to be a little bit different from the back because when you look at your measurements chart, instead of having the shoulder waist to back measurement plus 4, it's now the shoulder to waist front measurement plus 4, which in my case was is 47.3. So 47.3 plus 4, which is 51 or 51.3. So it's longer, and that is because obviously it has to go over the bust. 51.3. And then again, the waist to knee length will be the same. So 51.3 plus 55 equals 106.3. So we go back to our height box, 106 And again, 0 him off. So 0, 0, put him in the corner. So the next step is to put the guidelines in like we did on the back. So if you have the cheat sheet, then use that. If you don't, pop over to sewtobusiness.com, log on to the mini course, and you'll be able to find it in the course resources. So let's put the guidelines in. So see what I did? I actually just copied. Sorry, I didn't copy it. I just clicked and clicked. Of course, you can set the measurements directly in these boxes as well. So the first one, as before, is going to be the shoulder to waist front +4, which is up here. So back to our measurements. So 51.3. So again, remember we want to minus him from there. So 106.32 minus your measurement, 51.3, 55.02. That moves them down. Okay, and then we can copy this, so Control C, Control V, gives you waistline measurement. And actually what you could do, if you want to cheat a little bit, is pull all this down. If you line them up directly in line, this is cheating, but it's a quicker way of doing essentially what we've already done on here. So these things are all exactly in the right level already. So if we go up here and grab your bar, look at that, we can create a guideline. And then we can do that, create another guideline. So we're copying what was already here. This is all the same. It doesn't matter here. The only major difference we've got is the fact that this has a difference here. Okay, so these are the same. And then move him up a bit. Oh, see what I said earlier on about remembering to catch everything or you leave it behind? I left the text behind there. So let's zoom out a bit. And then we just move him out of the way. So now we can draw in those lines. So click, drag, holding Control, click, and press Enter. And actually, if you then click on top of the guide there, and then you could just press Delete, and it'll go away. Right, I've actually put this one a little bit far away. I'm just going to bring it back a bit. There you go. So I'm just going to copy those, Control C, Control V, and pop them there. And now this bit it's very similar to what we did on the first one on the back. So we need to decide where the bust line is going to be. So I want to copy the waistline, Control C, Control V. Oh. Put him on there, snap him in. Now we're going to move him up. Okay, so we want him to be where we measured the dart. Okay, so when you took the measurements for the dart, you took it from the waistline up to the bust level. And that is going to be where your dart's going to go. So remember the X and Y, and we were minusing him earlier on. We're now going to add him. So he's currently sitting at 55.02. And on your measurements chart, the bust dart position, I've got mine as 17.8. So 72.82 in the Y box. And that moves them up. And that is now your bust level. So copy that. Put him there. So 106 minus 25.65. It's 80.35. And that gives us our underarm line. If you can see, if you look over here where the other one was, you've got a bigger gap now, and that is allowing for your dart later on. And then again, your shoulder line. Just pop him up there. We're going to move him down 4. So he's moved down 4 centimetres. That's going to be our, didn't actually label him, but it's our shoulder line. It's like over here. And then you want your across back line, which is half of this, half of your underarm line. So it's 25.65 divided by 2, gives us 12.82. So Control C, Control V, put them in there. So 106 minus 12.82. So 106 minus 12.82, 93.18. So I'm going to move him. Oh, what did I say? 93.18? Yeah, 93.18. And that gives us our across back line. Or across front line, sorry. So yeah, not that one. So across chest. And that's all your guidelines. Now, we're actually going to have to do this one back to front. I would like when I do it in Illustrator, I would do it so the side seams, you know, they match when you hold the pattern like this. But unfortunately, because we're working on this thing of moving everything over from 0, it doesn't work. So what we're going to do is we're going to put in the guidelines like we did. So we'll put in these lines on this side, and we're going to start them from here, and then I'll show you how to flip the pattern piece over to create the how it should be. Okay, so just zoom out so you can see. Now we're going to go and lock layer 1 like we did on the first one, and then we'll go to layer 2, and we will start with the neck again. So if you've got your cheat sheet from the mini course, use that, and it gives you your neck guides. If not, go back to your sheet here. We should have, there we go. So we did the neck circumference divided by 5 minus 0.2, and that gave us our across block, didn't it? Now to give us our down, we want to just add a bit to that. So let's just go plus 1.5. And again, if you want to do this differently, you can. There's lots of ways to create a neckline, but this is just trying to keep it a bit simple because we are now getting on for time. So 7.16 plus 1.5 gives us 8.66. So we now want to create our cube. Remember, drag and go. And so our width is going to be 7.16. And our height is going to be 8.66. So that's going to be our neck guide. All right, so we just drag that and put in there. So we will be putting our neck curve in there. So now we're going to do our across shoulder. So when we did the cross shoulder back, we included an extra 1.5 centimeters, which is the extra ease. So we're going to go back to our measurements. So this was the shoulder width, and we want to do it this time without that extra 1.5 centimeters. So let's go back to our calculator. It's 39.1 divided by 2, 19.55. So draw a little guideline. Oh. Draw a little guideline down, hold the control button, press enter. Okay, you can change the colour if you want. I'm going to zoom in a little. And I'm going to stick him on there. In fact, again, let's change him again so we can see him. So we'll make the stroke, make it 2, and we'll change the colour. I don't know, maybe it'll be blue this time. Should we make it blue? There we go. It's blue this time. Get rid of that, press the X. Zoom out a little. There we go. So now we want to move this over again. So the measurement that we just created, which was 19.55 here, and from 0, 19.55. Sorry, I actually did that in the wrong place entirely. I did that on the chest line. See, it happens to everybody. So let's pop him up here. Oh, dear me. So 0. Right, so he's now going to be 19.55. There we go. So that's our shoulder point there. So now the across chest line, which we haven't actually done yet on here. So we'll do it down here. So half of the chest plus 1.5. So the chest measurement on your charts, the chest width on your chart is 35.2 divided by 2 plus 1.5, 19.1. So copy, Control C, Control V. Oh, I don't want to worry about the Y. We're doing it on there. So what did I say? 19.1. 19.1. And then we want to do the underarm, which is half of the front bust plus 2.5. And like I said, I used it earlier on. I used the back and the front were exactly the same. If your front and back are different, then that's fine. If they're not, then that's also fine. So we did 46 divided by 2 plus 2.5. So that's 25.5. Oops, sorry. So grab that, copy it, paste. So this is your next one. We're going to move him 25.5 on the X. Great, so down to the, ignore the bust line for now. We're not going to worry about that until we do the dart in a sec. Then paste in a waistline. And we should have already recorded that. So there we go, that was there. So that was 1/4 of the waist plus 5. So 74 divided by 4 plus 5 is 23.5. So we're going to move him 23.5. And if you remember when we did the high hip line, I decided it was too narrow for what we actually wanted to do with the block, so I didn't draw through it. So I'm actually going to not use it on this piece either. So we'll just use the high hip. Remember, if you're using the full hip, to put that a bit further down. And we already calculated that one as well, which was here, which was 27. So move that one across, 27. So great, so that's that done. So let's zoom out a bit. And those are your guidelines in there again. Now we're going to lock layer 2, go to layer 3. And again, we're just going to play, join the guides up. So last time I showed you how to pull and drag. This time I will show you how to do it just with lines and make the curves afterwards. So grab your pen tool and literally we're going to click. So that's the bottom of the neckline, in case you wondered. And then that's the neckline at the shoulder point. Across to the shoulder. Down to the bottom of the armhole. Like that. Onto the waist. Onto the hip. Down to the hemline, holding your control. Hold your control to that side. And all the way back up again. Now, it does look kind of funny. So let's grab your nodes tool, which was again that one, remember, and we can edit the points. Grab that node and then click the handles. There we go, look. Drag them in and then grab the edge one and pull him out. I actually like to sort of use this box as a guide. Okay, so we can just keep going. But you don't want to go too far because then it becomes funny, but just make him probably about there. There you go, I like that. Ignore this one because this one you want this to be a corner one. So click that node. There you go. And then did that. See? And then we're going to click this one. Pull the handles in because we want that one to be a corner. And make a nice curve. Again, if this is showing up as the images are sort of disappearing, don't worry, it's just my processor. It's a little bit slow on my laptop. And then down onto the hip one. Don't worry about the waist one. Down onto the hip one. Create your curve. Get them in and then pull the top one back out again. And then just smooth that to a nice hip shape. So we're not going into massive amounts of detail with adding, an extra centimetre here or dropping it in by an extra centimetre. We really are keeping this pretty basic and we're doing the whole thing by eye. All right. And again, you might not want this much of a neck curve. You might want it slightly different. You might want it lower. Just play around with it and just see what you like. Okay. So let's zoom out a little. So that's absolutely bob on now. So we've got our 2 pattern pieces. I'm just going to go to unlock all the layers that we locked earlier on. Unlock them all. That's it. Now, ignoring these words at the minute because I don't really want to change those. Using your selection tool, go around and select your pattern. Have I got everything? I hope I've got everything. Then I want you to come over to here. This is where you can flip and rotate and just flip it. That has now switched your pattern to the other direction. It's annoying that you have to do it like that because obviously you're kind of working backwards when you're going from the 0 line. If you were doing it, like so when we cover Illustrator, you'll see how I do it differently in Illustrator. Great, so you've now created your 2 pattern pieces. So let's just take those Move them out of the way. And actually, let's try and line them up a bit. So grab them. Oh, there we go. Grabbed him. Drag him. There you go. That gives you a better idea now of the fact that the front is now longer than the back, and that's because in there we need to put a dart. So we're going to do darts next. I hope you're all still with me. I know this is a bit boring, some of it, but this really is the hardest part, is creating your basic blocks. And again, you might all have different shapes of shoulder. You might have longer shoulders, narrow shoulders. But yeah, hopefully you're kind of getting there with me. Now, actually, a quick tip. If this just doesn't look right to you, for whatever reason, grab your ruler tool. So we'll zoom in a little bit. You can grab your ruler tool. If any of it just doesn't make sense, click on it and drag it. Okay? And that'll be able to tell you your shoulder measurement. And actually, that's spot on. We didn't actually include, if you remember when we been talking through doing the shoulders, we didn't talk about what the shoulder measurement was. We were doing the width across the back, but actually that's bob on what I measured. But if for any reason your shoulder measurement is wrong when you get here, I mean, it shouldn't be, but just in case it is, measure this first, and then you can create a line like we did using the pen tool and put in the exact measurements of your shoulder line, and then you can take it from here and line it up until it hits this line, and then create the curve from there, so you have more of a curve. This is just a really, really easy way to do a basic pattern. Yeah, so we'll just zoom out, and now we're going to start thinking about adding those darts in. And when we finish the darts, essentially you've got a basic pattern there. Okay, there's no seam allowances on it at the minute, remember that, and there is also a fair amount of ease in there. If you want to change the ease later, you can. Remember, you can use your ruler tool to go across and measure all those lines. And then once you've got your lines, add them up. So you've got the back and the front sides. So add those and then times it by 2, and that gives you your overall pattern. How much volume you're going to have in your pattern. So you'll be able to tell how much ease there is and how much you need to add or take away. So next up, we're going to say covering darts. So next up, we're going to think about doing some darts. Now we're going to do the back darts first. So let's go to the bust line, which was here. And we want to take our ruler tool and measure across. So we'd click there and then you drag it across and it will tell you. So 25, I'm not going to worry about the 0.8 there. As you can see, divide that. So 25 divided by 2 gives us 12.5. So let's put a line, and then we'll change there we go, change him to length of 12.5. Put him on there. Actually, I'm going to change his colour so we can see him. And then same again up here. So we want to know what the shoulder measurement is up here. So take your ruler, click and drag. So he's 14.6. Oh. So 14.6 divided by 2 gives us 7.3. So we just want to draw a line of 7.3. Again, it's a guide. So let's draw a line of, where did it go? Of 7.3. Change his colour. I'll get rid of him, there you go. And then put him on there. Zoom him in. The next thing we want to do is rotate that line. You see, if you click it and then click again, it gives you these little rotation curves. So I'm going to rotate him like that. Grab that middle bit. Ooh, grab him. Drag him down. And then there you go. So that kind of gives you a guide as to where halfway is on the shoulder. And then we'll go to layer 3. And then we're going to zoom out a little bit so you can see. Using the pen tool, snap on the guide, click, enter, and then back to layer 1 again. I'm going to grab the pen tool. We're going to do exactly the same. This time we're going to do the dart on the shoulder. So this is, in fact, I wasn't too far off. It should be 1.5. There you go, so 1.5. I'm going to change the colour. In fact, let's make him blue. And then click twice to rotate. You just want to line him up. Can be a little bit hard because he's going to want to snap, right? But don't worry, this is just a guide. Like I said, this is it's a basic software. Okay, we're not going to get too worried about it right now. It's a good starting point. So zoom out, go back to layer 3, and then you're going to finish the dart there. So from there to there. And that is your shoulder dart. Now you can obviously go back to layer 1 and just delete out those guides if you want, you know. But there's no drama with them. You don't, I mean, that's layer 3, layer 1. It doesn't want to play on layer 1 today. Never mind. Okay, I'll leave them in there for now. Right. The next thing is to do the waist dart here. So the waist dart is actually going to continue here, down this line. So we'll zoom out a little bit. And what you can do is you can edit the nodes. And we can just drag him. But obviously he's going to start moving. So if you drag him and he goes onto that line there, can you see at the top here, you want him to still touch that point at the top there. There you go. So that is your first dart leg for your waist dart. Just there. And then the next guide here is going to be 2.5 centimetres. So like you did before, just zoom in a little. So change that to 2.5. And that creates the other half of your dart guide. So you can click and click. And actually, in fact, we'll zoom in because he had a moment there, didn't he? He didn't want to, he hasn't gone quite across. So let's get rid of that guide. We don't need him anymore anyway. And click that line, drag him over. That's it. And again, we don't need that one anymore. Let's get rid of that. So now we want to go and just do the guides as I showed you earlier. So drag that just to there, and that will tell you where the centre of your dart is. So zoom out a little. And then we're taking him to the top of the hip and back up again. So that is your basic back pattern done. And then we're going to go over to the front. Okay, so let's start putting in the front bust darts. So first we'll go up to the shoulder. Take your tool, measuring tool, going to measure that. And he's about 13 centimetres. So 13 divided by 2 equals 6.5. So we've got a 6.5 centimetre guide. Draw a line. Make him 6.5. I'm going to change the colour just so we can see it. There we go. And then again, use the rotate. So click him twice and he starts to rotate. If you're using more advanced software, it's much easier because you can set it specifically. But as a rough guide for now, that will have to do. Like I said, you know, Illustrator has much better capability of doing this. And if this is your software of choice, there will probably be better ways as well within the software program that I'm not aware of. So next thing is to measure this line. So from here, grab it and then drag it over. So it's 25.1. It's back to your calculator. 25.1. Actually, we want to divide that by 2. Divided by 2 gives us 12.55. So go back to the pen tool. And then that is 12.55. And then pop that guide just there. Okay, again, I'm going to change the colour because we can't really see it. Okay, let's make it red. And we'll actually make him a little bit chunkier, I think. There we go, we can see him now. So the next thing is to draw your guideline all the way through. So I'll zoom out a little so you can see. And then grab the pen tool. And then go all the way through. You can see he's going to kind of touch here with the line, but we're not going to click on that. We're just going to keep going down to the waist level. And then if we zoom in again, oh, not that much. Use the edit node tool just to correct that. And then we need to do the bust dart here. So do our the waist dart even. Do our line. And we want a 2.5 centimeter dart. So 2.5 gives you a guide. Change the colour. Put him there. And the next thing is just to draw in the rest of the dart. And what you actually want to do, again, you can grab the guides so you can find out where the point is. There you go, look. And here you do have more of the dart to the back. If you wanted to make it more equal and have more of it to the front, you can do. So all I've done is just obviously follow that line down. Let's put in your bust dart next. Okay. So we need to measure the distance between here and here. We need to find out what the difference is. So from here to here, it's 5 centimeters. And from here to here is 7.5 centimeters. So your bust dart's going to be 2.5. So again, let's draw your line. And your height's going to be 2.5. And then drag it up to there. And this is going to be your guide. So in fact, it doesn't want to go. Keep snapping. You can turn off that snapping if you're not getting on with it. But it's really handy when you're starting out just to be able to get things where they should be. Okay. So let's go and delete out. That's essentially it. I mean, you can do whatever you want. So I'm not going to go through prettying it up. But that is something that if you're interested in using Inkscape as to how you can, you know, make sure that when you've done the pattern, the darts create they fold properly, and stuff like that. So if this is going to be your software of choice, then that's something you're going to want to look into. So let's just tidy everything up. Let's grab it all, pop it all over. Right. So we now don't need the guide boxes anymore. Let's get rid of those. Oh, we did that one. So our guide boxes are gone. And then we can get rid of these markers. Actually, I'm just going to lock layer 3 because it's not playing ball at the minute. So let's just there we go. So sometimes if you try to select something and it's not working, just go and lock the layer off, because it might be that your other layers are just causing issues. That's top layer. And then if you want to keep the guidelines, these, you can. You don't have to. You can delete them out. But just shrink them across. Now if you hold down the control key, it'll be a straight line. And there we go. And then I'm just going to, oh, I missed one. I think I've nearly got everything. Let's just unlock layer 3 again. So all the layers are unlocked now. And actually you can put them all on the same layer actually now. That would probably help organise things later on. No. I'm actually just going to drag him out of the way because I can't seem to grab that. There we go. Pop him back. And there you have it. That is your finished dress block. Now, like I said, it hasn't got seam allowances. We haven't neatened up the darts. We haven't done any matching of any kind yet. We haven't made it a pretty pattern, but it is a starting point. And the problem you have with Inkscape is that yes, it works. It does work, and you can do it, and it is free, but it's a long process because you don't have those shortcuts. So if you've managed to stay with me through this immensely long process, well done, because it was a very long process. And don't worry if your blocks don't look like mine again. I've just used some standard measurements. Everybody's going to be different, but it's a really good starting point. And if you can start to understand how the things come together, then moving on to actually paid software might be a better option. Now, I'm a big fan of Illustrator. You probably guessed that from the amount of times I've gone on about it. But all of that, which has, well, in essence, it's probably taken us over an hour now to really get that together. And all we've done is created a front and a back dress block. Okay, it's a really long-winded way of doing it because of the issues that we have with the software. So have a play with it, see how you get on, see if you can follow me. And like I've said before, if you're watching this all the way through in a one or on the Facebook group or on YouTube, if I put it up there, then well done, because it's a long-winded way of doing it. If you need it chopped down into smaller portions, which I'm going to do, again, I'm going to put that in a short course format on the website. And I'll also continue that with adding the sleeve and making separate blocks from the ones we've got here. Just remember that when it comes to pattern making, you are going to need things like to be able to rotate the darts, add seam allowances. You can kind of add seam allowances using the offset feature in Inkscape, but it isn't great. It seems to give you these weird curves. And it's also nice if you can use more specific software when you start to rotate things and spread things about and create your designs. But as a starting point, have a go. See how you feel you get on, and actually do get onto the group and share your pictures of what you've made. Take a screenshot, show us all, let's have a look. And hopefully in the next couple of days, all the rest of it will be available on the website, and then we're going to move on to a slightly more advanced software. We're not going to do Illustrator just yet. I think that's it's best saved for maybe next week, but we're going to do sort of an intermediate software. It is a paid for software, and I will cover the details of it on the Facebook group. And again, if you haven't been on the Facebook group yet, it's facebook.com/groups/sewing worldwide. And if you want the short course format of this video, which will probably be slightly more organised and in shorter chunks when I finish recording it, that'll be on sewtobusiness.com under the courses section when it comes live. Right, anyway, thank you very much for joining me, guys. I'm sorry if I've waffled on for far too long and you've all fallen asleep, but hopefully you've learnt a few basics of how to use Inkscape. It's not so much the drafting side of things and how to design a block, because once you've got once you understand how to use the software, the actual drafting, it becomes really easy. Okay, you can actually, this is just a really easy and very simple way just to take the measurements that I gave you without getting too complex. You can actually use any of the really good pattern books out there if you wanted to create your pattern block. It's exactly the same principle, just got to learn how to use the software first. Anyway, so I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope you made something. I said, if you have, let's see it, share it with the group. And I'm hoping that you'll enjoy the next software. Come on, we're working our way up to Adobe Illustrator, guys. So well done, everybody, for sticking with me, and thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you again soon.